And we are live for another one of the Music Street Journal 25th anniversary chats. And this time we've got Music Street Journal contributor Larry Toering. How you doing, Larry?
Great. Hope it's not too cold back there.
Yeah. So what? Let me ask you a question here. I don't remember this, and everybody else I've done these with, I remember. How did you get writing for Music Street Journal? Do you remember?
I think that I saw you put something out there. It must have been on Facebook. And I think I'd been following your publication for quite some time, actually, in my internet rounds. And I had been writing for, I don't know, since 1993 on the internet, to tell you the truth, in news groups and forums and stuff like that, and got around enough to where I wanted to, maybe join a staff. And that's how I got involved. I reached out to you in response to looking for writers.
Yeah, okay.
And that's how pretty much it all came together. It was, I think, 2010.
Could be. I don't, because I actually don't remember. It almost seems like, geez, you've been writing for MSJ forever. It just sort of happened, I didn't remember that one. Why don't you talk a little bit about the kind of music you like and how you got into liking music and that sort of thing?
Oh, well, that's pretty much taking it all the way back to about 1973 when I was 8 years old, and my environment was pretty musical. My pop was into music and knew the local artists around town and stuff like that, and very into the blues. And so what hit me first was Elvis, of course, and the Beatles and the Stones. That was, and for some, I don't know, the reason the Stones were in there was because Angie was out. And so this started, really stirring inside me. So I'm looking at Pop's collection. I'm listening to what he's listening to. And he hits me with a few albums. And it all went from there, pretty much, into clear up to 1979 or 78 or something like that, when the whole disco thing was happening. I almost took a shift, but luckily I got a taste of funk music and stuff like that out of it. So I just put that back into rock. And so by the early 80s, I'm reading all the magazines, collecting the records and stuff like that. And Deep Purple was brewing in the background the whole time for me. So that's the main band. And that, of course, split off into all these solo groups and stuff like that. And so my style of music was very, the heavy, the heavy rock and stuff like that was very, very much my foundation, and when you're in a band like that, it's either because you're a butt rocker, we've got some of that, or it's because you're deeper, into lyrics and things like that. So it's mostly Deep Purple, but I have also the whole A to Z thing going on as well. And I worked in nightclubs and record stores in the very beginning, so that helped as well. So it's kind of like a situation where maybe there's been about 10 years of my life that haven't centered around music. My uncle was a co-founder of the band New Shoes. I know you know who they are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I knew some of these blues artists and stuff because of my pop, and they were always around and stuff like that. So it's kind of my environment and my reluctance to stray from that.
I've got a story that I've never told anybody, that I'll tell you, because it's a Deep Purple story, and I know I've never told you. I don't think I've ever told anybody this. My first exposure to Deep Purple that I actually remember was not very positive. I think I was in, I don't know, well, it was it had to have been, yeah, I was in grade school, maybe barely in middle school. And I went over to a friend's house, and he was like, "Oh, my brother's got this record." He's like, "It's the weirdest thing you've ever heard." And he put on Child in Time. And that was just like, I'm a kid. I hadn't really heard anything close to like that. And we decided it was the scariest thing we ever heard. We didn't want anything to do with it. And it was a long time. But then the funny thing was, I knew I turned out I liked a bunch of Deep Purple songs anyway. I didn't realize they were Deep Purple. But
Right.
that was my first exposure to Deep Purple, and it scared the hell out of me. Now I love Child in Time. But
Yeah, that whole
yeah,
thing where you know um, you've heard the songs, but you haven't connected the name with them thing. That can happen with anybody from Aerosmith to Burt Bacharach. That sort of well, I've heard that 100 times.
uh,
I didn't even know it was him. You know.
yeah, I did that. I actually did that with Yes. In that, my first thing with Yes was Close to the Edge, which I just bought at a garage sale just by chance, and I fell in love with Yes. So then the next album I bought was Fragile, and all of a sudden Roundabout comes on. I'm like, I know that song, and I never
Yeah, it's
realized
kind
it
of
was by
already in
them.
your head.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's
so.
another one of the bands, by the way. I remember when we did the Trevor Rabin interview at Music Street Journal.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Well,
Was that?
his son has had a lot of local involvement around here in Portland in his uh, band called Group Love.
Oh, cool.
So
Is,
that
is
was
Trevor is
he,
Trevor
he,
living in
he,
Portland, or just his son, or
uh, excuse me.
do you know, is Trevor living in the Portland area, or just his son?
No, and I'm not sure if his son lives here, but has kicked around a lot here and maybe recorded here and
Oh,
played here.
okay.
So he took the opportunity to plug them in that interview.
Oh, okay. I got to meet Trevor once, and he was a super super nice guy. Very
Yeah,
nice.
I did too here in Portland, and those shows on the 90215 tour was awesome.
Oh yeah, that was. The funny thing is, I was a Yes fanatic since about 75, but I always called it, I had the Yes curse, and I'd try to go to a concert and something would happen and I wouldn't be able to go. That 90125 tour was the first time I actually got to see them. So it was kind of weird because I'd tried several other tours but couldn't get there.
They canceled on me 3 times in more recent years, between 2007 and 2009 or something like that. And
Oh wow.
I said I'm done with buying those tickets. But I met Tony K on the street here in Portland on
Oh
Broadway.
wow.
And walking in to buy a diamond ring and Zales, he come out. I got his autograph.
Nice.
That was pretty cool. I mean, he wasn't hard to spot the way he
Yeah.
was dressed and his hair, but that was a cool little encounter worth telling you about.
Yeah, I've never
Because
met
I was
him.
just
I've met
coming
a
out of
lot of
work and I worked right on Broadway, and there he was walking up the street. I go, hey, I'm going to see you, and he goes, I'll be right back. I'm going to the school here. That was cool.
Wow. Yeah. Like I said, I've met quite a few of the Yes guys, but I've never met Tony. He's one of my heaven. I'd
Yeah,
like to meet
well,
him.
didn't he? He was only briefly in the band originally, right?
He was there for the first
First album,
two
yeah,
albums,
right,
first
yeah.
two albums, and then no, he was there for the first three albums. I'm sorry,
Huh.
first three albums, and then right before Fragile, he quit, or I don't know. Nobody's ever been real clear about what the exit was, but anyway,
Yeah,
he
me
was.
neither. Yeah, exactly. And then Wakeman was there, and
Uh huh.
the rest is history, pretty much.
Yeah. Now you said your dad played music or no?
No, but
No,
he
he
would
didn't.
do things like drive the bands around
Oh, okay.
and help
Uh oh.
afford to have those parties. Excuse me, somebody dialed in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So You don't play any. You don't play any instruments, or do you?
Well, I tinker around a little bit, but no, my brother, who I grew up with, of course, started playing about 1974.
Oh, okay.
So I watched him get the lessons, learn how to play all the stuff, and he also likes Deep Purple. So that was a double strength up, background for that, for liking Deep Purple.
Okay, I gotta ask. I've never asked you this. I know, you like you said, Deep Purple's it for you. How many times have you seen Deep Purple live? Do you know?
It's 20 or more.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. The thing about that, and that's part of the whole phenomenon of being a fan of theirs. What they've done is they've fed me a daily timeline of rock and roll, and they're a never let up situation. They're headed for Toronto from Nashville right now. Go in the studio with a new guitar player, and then back out on the road again, hitting Japan, Sweden rock, all of them. Um, I, you know, they don't play Portland. They have been here in over the 50 something year history. They have been here, I don't know, 5 times or something like that to the state of Oregon, maybe 6, and to the area 7 or 8, maybe. But it's been a travel thing since the day one of the reunion, and that hasn't stopped. So it's kind of more of a get to go sightseeing somewhere as well as go to a concert. Um, and so I've had to do that. And you kind of get, once I got the bug, it just hasn't stopped yet. I don't know where I'll see them next, but I will see them again.
Well, now you've kept up more. Who's the new guitar player? I haven't kept up on it.
His name is Simon McBride,
Hmm.
and he's from Ireland.
Huh.
And he had to step into the band because Steve Morse's wife,
Right. Has
who,
cancer.
yeah, and so everybody knows that happened, but they don't know about this Simon fella.
Have
And he
you
has a
heard him?
solo album out right now. It's a very good album, and he's got more of a Gary Moore kind of influence, but also some friends of mine have been calling him the Joe Bonamassa of the UK.
Oh, okay.
So
What,
there's a large contemporary blues factor to him.
wasn't Joe? Didn't Joe tour with Purple for a little while, or if I remember right,
Who?
or was it Satriani?
Joe Satriani did, yeah.
It was
I actually
Satriani,
met
not
him.
not Bonamassa. For some reason, I was getting
Yeah,
them mixed up.
yeah. Well, that was back before Steve came into the band, and I just want to say, I just take this opportunity, anyways, that Steve Morse is one of the gods of the instrument. There's really no way you can replicate that guy. Come in and try to do that sort of thing, just like he did in Richie's footsteps.
Yeah,
Um, but Richie and him being gods of the instrument, maybe that's what Simon is too. We don't know. Um, but I just want to say that about Steve is you cannot the fans can't thank that guy enough for being in the band and changing and being a big basic game changer for the band. He was a game changer for him, and I just so long Steve, you know.
yeah,
And his wife Janine, I met her too, and she's a lovely gal, and I wish them well.
yeah.
I think he
Steve,
was out playing this week with his own solo band. Yeah,
he's an amazing musician and a really nice guy too.
yeah,
So
definitely.
I remember you told me the one time that he said to say hi to me,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I was like, whoa, that's cool. But I had emailed with Steve so many times over the years, back and forth. So obviously we knew each other. But
Well, there's another aspect to all this purple stuff, and that's the record collecting. It isn't like and it isn't about having as many copies of something that you can get. Um, there's so many records that people don't understand that because they go, well, you got the song here, you got the song here, you got the song here. What do you need all this for? Um, it's beautiful. It's awesome stuff. It's fascinating, and that has kind of fed the whole thing. Being a record collector,
Oh
um,
yeah.
you'll see you'll see various people out there these days. I won't name any names, and they'll grab something off the shelf with an autograph or something like that, and they'll put it up and they'll show it. Um, I look at all that stuff and go, why am I not doing that? But I do it anyway, without any on camera or anything like that. So it's just kind of natural for me. But I don't often do interviews and um, open chats like this, so I might be getting more into it in the future.
Cool. That would be cool. You know
It's
what? I
all
think,
about what you have time for,
yeah.
and when people start showing their stuff around, and you start going, well, maybe that's something to do with it. You can ease your way into it, just kind of like we did with the writing. I mean, you've been at it since what, 1998? Long
Yep.
time.
Yep. Very long time. But I was gonna say, I think that the pandemic sort of got everybody doing video chats and stuff. I don't think people did a lot of that. It was like a business, big businesses would do them, but I don't think
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of
I
people
do.
did
I
them up
do
until then.
Zoom. I do Zoom in my business, which I'm not really here to talk about.
Well,
But
we are going to talk about it. Yeah, I wanted to
okay,
bring that up and let you talk about your business and promote it because that's part of it too. You know, if you want to go into it now, that's fine. That this is a good time as any.
well, it's when you say promoting, it's really only there's an exposure aspect to it, just like publicity and all that stuff. Um, it's marketing that is the real flame, because that gets you in front of wherever you need to be promoted. It
Right,
helps build an audience, and awareness is how you do that. Really, not trying to sell anything.
right.
As a distributor, that's what I do, and then I consult with people on where not to be marketing, because there's a lot of shady folks out there.
Yeah.
It just
Well,
is
I mean,
just
I
how the
was gonna say, why
playing
don't you
field.
talk in a little bit of more detail about what it is you do and the
Um,
name of your company and stuff like that?
well, I'm in a company that and that has a couple of other guys, older gentlemen that have been around in the music business. Let's just put it that way. So it's kind of like when you see a marketer talk on one of these videos and they say, "Well, I have mentors. I didn't just um, create what I do out of thin air."
Right.
Uh, and that either helps you, gives you confidence to keep doing what it is you think that you can do. Um, and once you find a need, you you have the seed of your growth of network of what you want to do. So that's how you do it, and then you start watering the plants, and that's kind of how distribution works in the digital world. If you could just apply the marketing now to the CD and vinyl world, it would be an explosive revolution, in my opinion, because CDs and all that would be doing just as well as all this digital stuff. So that's what we do pretty much, is we get the music to the world. We do a lot of heavy lifting to do that, and I don't want to try to sell it or be a competitor or anything like that. I want to just keep helping artists, and as long as you do that, you don't get absorbed by all of these the kind of shady things that go on, and you help your artists reach their goals. And so that's pretty much what we do. Um, my partners are veterans, so it's mostly a what not to do business right now, and it's very exciting, to tell you the truth. Um, I can't wait to see what the future brings. But the pandemic and all that did bring a lot of it on, a lot of this marketing and fire and excitement in the background to move people forward inch by inch. And so that would, of course, that entails we work with a lot of artists. Um, is turned in from working with an average amount to quite a bit more because labels come into the picture and bring those bands.
Nice.
Yeah, some of them that we work with are Pat Groove Records, and that's Paul Crosby of Saliva. That's his label. And we have another one over in Connecticut, which is Opus at Mindsnap Music, which has all these bands, Dead by Wednesday, and all this great stuff going on. And we're all, pretty happy working together. And that's the status right now of it. It's Von Artists, by the way.
Yeah. What I'll have you do? Actually, if you want, what I'll do, because I did this with when I talked with John Pierpoint, was any links you've got that you want me to share. I'll put when I put this out on YouTube. If you want to send me any links you want me to share, I'll put them in the details section of the video, so anybody will be able to click on them when they see the video.
Well, one link will do it all in our case. It will be, a link that can be opened, and a lot of music can be seen inside it. So
nice. Now, you mentioned CDs and stuff. I guess CDs are starting to make a comeback a bit anyway.
Well, this is true.
People were saying they were dead, and now suddenly they're selling again, which I'm happy with that.
And any artist can, if they move a significant amount, to notice the difference. They can get a balance between formats, and you don't have to be in this format war. I wouldn't participate in anything that way. As an artist, I would mount both, and see the difference. And, and most people know that the sale of one CD versus X amount of streams is going to prove to you which one sells more. So it tells you which one to concentrate on more, while the other one's just kind of working in the background.
And certainly, you're going to make more
money, and they know that that's a good tip. So
yeah, certainly you're going to make more money selling a CD than you are.
Yeah,
it's a lot of streams.
The reality is to do it, and see, instead of just kind of looking at the culture and kind of thinking and engaging and going, well, I don't see anything going on here, or I see something going on over here, because there's an inside and an outside to the machine, and it takes a long time to get to know how it works from the inside. So certainly it isn't going to be something that people are going to know from the outside.
Right. And, what I was going to say is, you mentioned this. It's like it just makes sense, if you can, to have it out there for as many options as people can get. Because different people like different formats. So if you can get it out there in all the formats, you're covering your bases, and you're going to make the most people happy and have the best exposure.
As collectors, aren't we a little interested in just about every one of those formats that have been around? And we keep some of them around still because they're worth collecting and keeping around, but not going exactly wild on. But
right. I mean, I don't know if you probably can't see it, but behind me over there are a number of 8-track tapes, which I've got some 8-track tapes, because as you collect Deep Purple, I collect Yes in very much the same way. It's like, I've got multiple copies of the same things because they're a little different, different mix, or they've got different liner notes or whatever, and I'll buy them over and over again.
Yeah, here's a quadraphonic 8-track of Machine Head.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, and I just can't keep that pretty near, it's kind of like a spirit around here.
And I have stuff to play just about every format. I have nothing to play an 8-track, and I don't even know if they work. I bought them used, and who knows if they work, but I've got them.
I like reel to reel.
What's that?
Reel to reel.
Reel to reel. No, I don't have reel to reel. I would like to have a reel to reel, but I don't. Do you have one?
I have a Sony, but the tapes are actually pretty expensive.
Oh yeah,
hard to come by. So that's kind of an eBay auction thing.
Yeah,
but I do like that format because it sounds so good, and you can play all day. So in the early '80s, I was listening to one um, quite a lot at this big party house that we lived in.
Yeah, over here I've got next to me I've got my tuner so I can listen to the radio if I want. I've got a double cassette deck. I got my turntable and a 300 disc CD changer. So
Oh,
you
nice.
know I got all those covered.
Yeah. Does your mailbox still just keep getting slammed with releases?
You know, it was, and a couple years ago, probably 2, 3 years ago, I did something I'd never done before, and I started setting up spam filters.
Oh,
And like the companies that were sending me stuff, and I would reply to them, and give them our rules and stuff. And I did that 4 or 5 times, and if I didn't get a single response back from them, they went on the spam filter. So I've gotten it down to where I get, I don't know, maybe 200 emails a day. It had gotten so bad. It was unmanageable. I was getting 700, 800 emails in a day, and there's no way to manage that. So I spent probably, I don't know, 3 months going through and eventually setting up spam filters, which I had never had to do before, but it just exploded.
that's crazy.
Yeah. And I never liked the idea of spam filters because to me, being a computer guy, I know that they're not perfect, and it's gonna sometimes filter stuff that you don't want it to filter. And so I had always thought, well, I'll just go through and delete the stuff I don't want to look at. And it just got so bad I couldn't do it anymore. I mean, it was taking so much time. So what are you gonna do? You know?
That's part of your growth pattern. It,
Yeah, I guess.
most
And it's also part of MusicStoreJournal.com has been around so long, and the main email address has been around so long that I'm sure it's on a ton of spam lists, and so I get so much email, a lot of it just straight up spam, because I'm sure that email is everywhere on the internet and the dark web and stuff if you want to find it. So it just happens with having the same email address for so long too.
yeah,
You
pretty
know,
wild though. I mean, I don't think I've deleted any emails for 20 years or something like that. So it's kind of become some
wow.
annex for you.
Yeah, I wish I didn't have to, but man, they just and like I say, I got fed up because some of these people, some I've noticed a trend in a lot of the PR companies anymore. Some of these PR companies aren't really what I would call a PR company. All they do is when somebody's got a new thing out, they just send the message out and with the link to stream it or whatever, and then they don't reply to anything. They don't even they don't even pay attention to any emails that come back in. Like if they send me something and I say, I'd like to set up an interview with these guys, they won't even reply to that. So that's not really a PR company as far as I'm concerned. You're not really doing the artist any favors. All you're doing is taking some money to send their links out to some list, and then you're not even following up on it. And I got fed up with the ones who don't follow up and just said, yeah, they're going on the spam list.
There's a separation between the two, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, in your business, that's I've seen a lot of it myself because I have to see all the layers in what a band is doing. Where they're traveling, who they're signing up with, and what's going on there. And I agree with you. I'm not gonna disagree with what you're saying. Um, I mean, and that's been what's kind of taken me into a lot less writing. But I love it when our stuff is quoted in EPKs and stuff like that.
Oh, so do I. So
So
do I.
that I mean that's one thing that I can say, um, and that's what we also get paid to do. Um, I can at least say it from that standpoint, but it's a lot less these days, and people or artists are just going, well, what do we do and what do we do? oh well, blogging is so 2009, and then it goes from there. And then these type of PR companies and stuff like that, they get their edge in, and that's the quagmire.
Well, and I think, I've never checked up on any of them, but they're probably much cheaper than the better companies.
Right,
But you
that
get what
too.
you pay for.
And an artist doesn't have any guidance, so they don't know where to go. And a lot of the times might believe they know where to go.
Right.
And sometimes it's in circles, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's your great music that does it all. Sometimes it's your marketing, and sometimes it's just dumb luck because you put yourself out there.
Yeah, it's usually a combination of the above, though.
Yeah.
Like for instance, talking about the luck thing, there was one with Yes. Yes was pretty much unheard of, and I don't know if you know this story, but they were pretty much unheard of. And then there was a postal strike in England, and because of the postal strike, the album charts couldn't get sent around England, so they literally just 1 week, all the album charts were done strictly on London stores. And so Yes's manager went and bought all the albums, all the Yes albums from the stores in London, which pushed them way to the top of the charts. And it's like, it was just dumb luck because the postal strike was on that he was able to do that. Otherwise he would have had to go around the whole country and buy them all. So it's like, it's a little bit of engineered, but a little bit of just dumb luck too.
That's a great example, to tell you the truth. Thanks for telling me about that one.
Yeah, I mean, and the guy, I give big credit to the guy for thinking of it, that was pretty brilliant. But, yeah, I mean, so there is a lot of dumb luck in it. But on the other hand, I think that, to me, when somebody's up and coming, the more press they can get and the more places they can be talked about, the better, because that increases your visibility. And, not everybody who hears about the band is going to be interested, but some of the people are. And the more people you hear about it,
you're hitting on an element that of what we both do, and what I do, and what you do, besides what we both do.
Right.
Yeah, you're really on the edge of that topic, and that's what it's about, and that's the cutting edge. That's you're just speaking my language right there, and that's what we do anyways. We all speak the same language. It's a conversation that other people aren't having, and I don't know. I guess maybe it's time to put a little bit more out there to keep that going, without trying to be like, hey, buy this, and
right.
Try to sell somebody something.
Well, and you know what? As far as that kind of stuff goes, anybody could do it themselves. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, it's very time consuming, and you've got to build up the connections, which takes time. And so it's, you could do that. Any artist could do that, but that's all time that's taken away from their music. And, really it makes sense for them to hire somebody else to do it, because then they can spend the time doing what they're supposed to be doing,
and positioning themselves to just show up and play.
Exactly.
Goal, and because that's how people used to do it, or they weren't performing.
Right. And you know what? Because I mean, the best PR in the world can kick a door open and get somebody to hear you, but unless you can deliver once they hear you, it's not going to do you any good,
Yeah, and I think that lends to having to sound like yourself once you establish your sound.
Exactly.
People expect you to keep sounding that way.
I think another part of the problem too, with as far as when we go back to getting overloaded with submissions and stuff, part of the problem too is that once the labels broke down, and once things like Bandcamp and stuff came out, and Spotify and all that, and suddenly anybody could sit down at their computer and record some music and put it out there, the sheer mass of stuff out there just increased so dramatically. And, the more there is, the littler spec you are as an artist without, some way to magnify that. And so I think that, part of it is there's just so many more artists out there getting pushed on people. It used to be, if you were a small band, local band, what would you do? You'd play the gigs in your hometown. You'd maybe shop some demos around and try to get outside into a bigger region and stuff like that. But you didn't have the option of going out on the World Wide Web and getting people across the world to possibly hear your music. And now that everybody can do that, it gets very crowded.
Yeah, that's what these Spotify's and them. That's what they're about, creating a space, because you're not going to get on the dial.
Right.
It's a line around the block kind of thing. So everybody has this place where they can I don't know, they can get the tools, they can do all these things, and artists can get in there, and then what? So it should only be part one microcosm of the whole pie, you
Yeah.
know, one slice of the whole pie, and a lot of people are going for it, and it's causing all this massive amounts of music coming out on a daily basis, to where you can't the only way to get through is to find some way to stand out. The rest is pretty easy.
Right. And like I put it, it's like the noise level has increased. You've
Yeah.
gone from, and that's one of the things that was there are plenty of things to criticize the old label system about, and how they dominated things and they often ripped off artists. But on the other hand, having gatekeepers was helpful. It ensured that a certain amount of quality was gotten in there. They would hire producers who would make sure they got the uh, best recorded material from the artist, and it would limit, what was getting out there. So there was that much less stuff for people to hear and to choose from. And there are advantages to that. And to some degree, I think it's not as good of a world without the label system like it was. But on the other hand, like I said, there were plenty of disadvantages too.
What's not coming back shouldn't, for the most part, but what's in place isn't necessarily better.
No,
Uh,
exactly.
and that's how we all see it. And we know what produced the better music, and the times had a lot to do with it as well. But
Yeah.
if you concentrate on what you do, you can put out a better product always.
Well, well, and part of it is a lot of times these bands are just literally doing producing their own stuff,
Yeah.
and they don't have an unbiased ear there to
Mhm.
say, well, look, this might be better if you do it this way, or if you put these songs in this order, or do you think maybe you might want a song in a different tempo to kind of break things up a little? They don't have that person there doing that, which was what produced the better records. I mean, if you listen, I remember years ago, I had a make your own or record your own records book. It was all about, breaking into the vinyl thing. And one of the things the guy said in there, and I didn't even, it never dawned on me before. He's like, you take two albums, one that you think is really boring and one that you think is really good, even though all the music is pretty good, but one just seems like a boring album, even though you like the songs on it. And he said, take a metronome and check out the timing on them. And he's like, if you the one that's boring, he's like, I'll almost guarantee you everything's in about the same tempo. Whereas the one that you like and isn't boring, everything changes around. If that's one of the arts that's definitely been lost on a lot of people, you'll see so many albums and everything's the same tempo.
Well, that gives you that insight. The headphones on and you evaluate something. Um, you're not always the same ears that are going to hear it. You're not the masses, so you're being, critical. Um, and some artists like that, and some don't.
Yeah,
And the ones that don't, I say, it's just an experience thing. You know, they're not at the level where they've been humbled or whatever, that where they can say that they're doing it for any other purpose but themselves. Um, and once there's a floodgate open of artists that have that attitude, because they're independent and everything, that put on the list of things that stifle their progress.
yeah. And that's one thing too. It's like you have to be able to accept that criticism and sort of
Mhm.
decide. Well, it's like I tell people with book reviews too. It's like if you get any kind of a review, look at the review, understand it's one person's opinion, unless you start hearing the same thing from a number of people, and then say, okay, is there anything valid in this criticism? Is there something I could learn from and improve with?
Mhm.
And you've got to have that sort of ability to actually be honest about it, or you're never going to improve.
Well, I've seen the way you review product, and it's a lot of I like this or I kind of don't like this is going to be in there.
Yeah,
Um, and I can tell you're listening to it at the time you're talking about it. Usually, that's what it seems like to me.
yeah,
Uh, and that's the type of evaluation that people in the music business all have. Um, so you're touching on another thing there that is a fact. Um, and sometimes they don't have that other ear of advice, and it takes them in the direction that it takes them.
yeah, yeah, and it's not necessarily a great direction sometimes. Although on the other hand, there are certain types of music where uh, that seems to be what they like. Certain fans like that kind of stuff where everything sounds the same. I don't get it,
When the
but
techno pop and stuff came in, Duran Duran and stuff like that, um, I what I did was I said, well, this is an art form of a different style and stuff like that. So take it for what it is and keep it in its lane, pretty much. I didn't terminize it that way, but but that's what it is, and that's what it remains to this day. So it's kind of gets categorized that way. And when there's an onslaught of these artists that come on, I mean, we haven't really seen anything like it since the '90s, um, where all of a sudden there's all these bands and they're all pretty good, but they're all kind of similar.
yeah,
Um, whether it be that techno pop sort of new wave stuff that turned into whatever the grunge era was. Um, some you have to have terms for all these things, and that's kind of what being journalists and writers are all about. Coming up with those things like heavy metal.
yeah. Well, I was gonna tell you, I can. I'm talking about Duran Duran story here for you. 1982, maybe 81, 82, and Duran Duran's Rio had just come out. In fact, it had just come out like a day or so earlier. Nobody was playing "Hungry Like the Wolf" yet, and I went to see Blondie and Duran Duran, who I had no idea who they were opening. And Duran Duran were so freaking good. Blondie sucked that night. They had all kinds of technical problems. They were terrible, but Duran Duran just blew them off the stage. I went out and bought both Duran Duran albums the next day because they were so good.
Cool. Yeah, but Blondie was always a hit or miss. It
Yeah,
was either a good show or a bad show.
and they had a
I mean,
terrible
I've seen
show.
her. I've seen her at both spectrum ends of the spectrum of her career, and that's kind of how those. It either went down really well or it sucked.
Yeah, that one they had trouble right from. I mean, like I said, they had a lot of technical problems. They were supposed to have a laser show at the beginning, and the laser show didn't work, and so they just like quit it in the middle, push the curtain out of the way that was supposed to do the laser show on it. And, you could tell it threw them off because their whole show was sort of off after that, and the sound kept having problems with Debbie's vocals, and it was a disaster show. They were terrible, but I don't think they were so good at maybe rolling with the change, rolling with the changes there. I think that once they got thrown off, that was it. Their whole night was thrown off. Then again, that can happen to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's hit and miss sometimes, and then sometimes it's steady for 8 shows. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. And I don't know. That was like I think that was the Auto American tour or whatever for Blondie, and I don't know that that was a great album anyway. So, But anyway, that's kind of the end of what I had. Do you have anything else you'd like to chat about?
Oh, not really. But I would like to get into the rhythm of, maybe um, having these chats more often and stuff like that. And, I'm just kind of introducing myself because, normally we're behind the keyboard.
Yeah,
Um,
this is literally the first time I've ever heard your voice.
yeah.
And we've
Yeah.
been working together for
It's
so many
amazing the
years.
amount of work we can get done anonymously.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes, I don't know, sometimes you have to go a step further and put yourself out there even more without, like I said, without trying to sell something or do something like that. You want to be helpful in getting a word out about whatever it might be, and it's another way to do it. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh yeah, and I like doing these. It's something sort of new that I've been playing with for a little while. When I started doing Spooky Ventures, I started doing the video quite a bit, and I sort of decided, we can do some of this with Music Street Journal too. And it's just sort of something to play with and see how it goes. Um, it's certainly another angle, and you know what I thought too. The people who do read MSJ always see everybody's names, but to put a face and a voice
Yeah.
and to get to sort of know who these people are, I think would be a nice touch for them. So I thought this would be great to do for the 25th anniversary. So, but
And congratulations on the 25th anniversary.
thank you, my
Great.
friend, and thanks for coming out here and doing this. And you want to give me that link? You said you've got one link. Why don't you give it to the viewers and so they've got that?
Well, it's just Linktree Bon Artist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. And then,
www.link. I think it's dot link tree/Von underscore artists.
okay. And then
And I'll send that along to you after a second.
yeah, we'll put it, like I said, when I put it out on YouTube, we'll put that in the details section. And for everybody who, I'm figuring anybody who's watching a Music Street Journal thing knows, but if you don't, musicstreetjournal.com, and you can get all the books at lulu.com/spotlight/strange sound. Or if you go to garyhillauthor.com, there's a whole Music Street Journal section with links to all the book versions of it. So that's that. But yeah, I think I'm good if you're good, Larry.
Okay, boss. I really appreciate it. So take care, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah, it was fun getting to actually chat with you for a change, my friend.
Yeah. Well, the more we do it, the more that gets revealed, and it's a very happening scene right now. I can tell you that much. Even in Portland, that's been distracted by all the chaos and stuff. It's still going strong and thriving. So
Good.
we'll talk more in the future.
All right, sounds good, buddy.
Okay. Take care.
Take it easy.